Today we're going to be reviewing Husqvarna leaf blowers. As you can see, I have four here: the 380 BTS, 350 BT, 150 BT, and 525 BX. These are all fairly modern blowers, obviously. The 380 was the biggest one they made, and that's more of a commercial model. For what it is, it has seen a very low use life in our ownership. The 350 is just a bit bigger than the 150, and those are good sized. The 350 is a good sized homeowner model, and the 150 is just a real small backpack blower. And we can also touch base a bit on the 125B Husqvarna handheld blower, because I used to own one of those. And this will start with the smallest. This is the 525 BX. And to me personally, this just feels like a better built version of the 125B. This one just seems to start better, it looks better, and all in all, I haven't done any research, but this just feels like a better built version of the 125B. I sold my 125B, which I bought brand new, I don't know, probably 5 years ago now already. I sold it so I could get a cordless blower. And before we get any further, disclaimer, none of these blowers actually belong to me personally. The 525 and the 350 belong to my very nice neighbors, and the 380 and 150 belong to my parents. But I have used all these blowers, especially the 150, a lot. So that's that. And anyways, I owned a 125B that I bought brand new 5 years ago. And it was a decent blower, I guess. I mean, pretty much just, it felt not as good as this. But it was still a decent blower. For like only 180 bucks, a brand new Husqvarna leaf blower seemed like a decent deal for me. And the reason I sold it a couple years ago is because I wanted to switch to a cordless blower, particularly a Milwaukee handheld blower, just because I felt like, I mean, I wasn't attached to the Husqvarna or anything, and I had the 150 here, so I had a good-sized gas blower for decent jobs, and all I really needed that 125B for was blowing off mower decks and very small yard work, which the Milwaukee works just fine for. And I already had the battery system for my Sawzall and other tools from Milwaukee. And, you know, the Husqvarna 125B was just another engine to maintain. And I just felt like Milwaukee would be the better choice for my small handheld blower unit. But yeah, this has been a good unit. I don't think my neighbors have had to do any repairs to it. When I use it, it always starts extremely well. So yeah. The 150, we bought this brand new, I don't know the exact number of years ago. I'm gonna say 4 or 5 years ago. Probably 4, maybe 5. And it's been good, other than the fuel lines failed about 1.5 years ago. That's the only issue we've had. And we only use premium fuel with Husqvarna oil, 50-to-1 ratio, as recommended. And the fuel lines failed. And that's supposedly a common issue with Husqvarna products. Their fuel lines are not nearly as good as Steels or Echoes from what research I've done. So that's just a common issue to look out for when dealing with any Husqvarna. Actually, my ex-neighbor also had a 125B, and he hired me to do the fuel lines on his because they failed as well, primer bulb as well. This is a good small backpack blower. Good for older people because it's light. I mean, to be honest, an older person should not be running something like the 380. I have a bit of a hard time with it. But this is definitely a really good choice for an older person or a small scale job that could use a backpack blower. Because, I mean, really, it's not all that powerful for a backpack blower. I mean, some dealers I've talked to, they won't even deal with these. Too small for being a backpack blower. They don't have interest in them. So, yeah. Here's the 350. Now this is my neighbor's, like I said, and I think he went through the fuel system on it a bit when he got it a year ago, used. Don't quote me on that. But it's been good as well. Other than about 1.5 years ago, it started developing an issue where after you ran it a while, it would start like backfiring, going boom, boom, boom every once in a while after it got warmed up. And it would also have trouble staying idling. And we kind of used it like that for 1.5 years. Granted, we did not use it much, and the issue was intermittent. And finally, it ended up being the ignition coil. Put a new OEM ignition coil in, and the problem solved. I've heard issues coming from the fuel system on these blowers, like cracked fuel lines and stuff. But in this case, it was the ignition coil. Similar thing actually happened to our little earthquake tiller a while ago. The 380, this is the big boy. Yeah, this is a really big machine. At the time, it was the biggest one they made. I think they one-upped it recently, but this is like a commercial machine here, and we've hardly given it any use for what it is. And it's been amazing, absolutely amazing. Always starts right up, has never had any issues. And this is the oldest one here, I think. The 350 might be older, but I think this is the first one my parents bought new. Anyways, so, and no complaints about this one whatsoever. It's been amazing. A little better built, and the 150 and the 125B and the 525 have starting directions, but at the 350 and the 580 you don't get those. They're just bigger blowers, and Husqvarna expects people to know, and it's simple enough. I'm not complaining about that. It's just a fact I'm pointing out here. I could go over the specs and all, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to make another video this fall, or this summer if I get some cleanup job, but probably this fall, doing a comparison between all these blowers, or at least the backpack blowers, because right now we don't have many leaves, and this video is just a general review. So just stay tuned for that video, and we can do some cold starts right now on what we have here. So fire up the 580. Your primer bulbs are kind of hidden on Husqvarna blowers. They're under the carburetor on the bottom side. You know, just prime it 10 times like a lot of stuff. Choke is this red lever. Press that down. Now, I don't really like the on-off switch throttle design on these blowers because it's built into one. So sometimes, that's cruise control, by the way, what I just did there at full throttle. But sometimes, say, you're leaf blowing at full throttle for a long time, and then you're like, okay, I'm done. If you go, here's idle. But sometimes we've pressed it up to stop right after being at full throttle by accident. And that's obviously not ideal for an engine. It's just kind of inconvenient, a little bit of a poor design there. And that's on the 350 and 580. The 150 and 525 have toggle switch type deals. Husqvarna's style on the 150, Husqvarna's common style is where it's always on. Or, yeah, it's always on, and then you just press it to turn it off and it reverts back to on after it's off. The 525 has a little bit different of a style, but that's self-explanatory if you get one. So we'll put this on idle or just above, and we got it on choke and we primed it, so here we go. And that's a review on Husqvarna leaf blowers. Like I said, I'll be doing a comparison video later on. It's spring right now, and I mean, I did the little bit of yard cleanup there was to do. So, unless I get some crazy leaf removal jobs or something, that video is going to be postponed to this fall. A comparison video between these, or at least the backpack blowers. So yeah, like I said, stay tuned for that. Please subscribe, don't miss that, helps me out. And I mean, overall, I recommend Husqvarna leaf blowers, I guess. I mean, you got your fuel line issues and the ignition coil issue. I don't know if that's very common or what. And the 525 is a better choice than the 125 in my opinion. So I think that's all I wanted to cover in this video. So hope you found this helpful. Please subscribe and like. Thank you. Bye.